Around 10,000 BC, far away from the present day, in a wide valley surrounded by mountains, there was a village where human life was quietly going on. The inhabitants lived a simple but powerful life in harmony with the rhythms of nature. They looked up at the stars at night, hunted during the day, and cooled off in the springs coming down from the mountains. But this valley had a secret, a light that shone in the sky at night, something in the middle of the darkness that was a different color than the stars, shining between red and white. This light was a riddle for everyone in the village. Most saw it as a sign, a message from the gods, and feared it. But Yatuk, the youngest hunter among them, had a different curiosity about this light. Ever since he was a child, at night, he would look up at the sky, gazing at the light, trying to make sense of it. He was drawn to this light, and one day he wanted to see it more closely, to unravel its mystery. One winter night, the light appeared brighter than ever. The villagers had retreated to their homes, praying by their fires, but Yatuk quietly rose from his seat. When he went outside, the breeze from the mountains licked his face. The night was cold and quiet. Yatuk picked up the hunting knife he carried at his waist and moved in the direction of the light. At the northern end of the valley, there was a cave where almost no one went. The belief was that this cave was the abode of the gods. The villagers dared not even approach it, but that was exactly where the light was coming from. When Yatuk reached the entrance of the cave, he was greeted by a chilling wave of air rising from within. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. Inside the cave, he noticed strange symbols carved into the surface of the rocks. These symbols were unlike anything he had seen in the village. When Yatuk placed his hand on one of the symbols, he felt a warmth emanating from it. At that moment, a sound came from deep inside the cave, a rustling, followed by an echo. Yatuk instinctively drew back, but then recovered himself and went deeper. He came upon a huge hall, and in the center of the hall was a stone pillar rising up from the ground. The symbols engraved on this pillar were glowing. The glow was red and white light. As Yatuk got closer, he noticed that the glow grew stronger and stronger, and for a moment he found himself in a dazzling light. When he stopped in front of the stone, something unexpected happened. A recess hidden in the side of the pillar opened, and an object appeared. It was a strange metal sphere, just the right size for a human hand. Yatuk had no memory of ever seeing metal before. This object was more durable, shiny, and mysterious than anything else they knew in the village. When he touched the sphere with his hand, a sudden warmth enveloped him, and an image appeared in his head. Vast lands, mountains, rivers, and a sky full of stars. Suddenly, he heard a voice echoing in his head. "You, Yatuk, have been chosen," the voice said. "The knowledge that will be given to you belongs not only to this world, but to the millennia to come. But this knowledge comes with a responsibility as heavy as the burden it carries." Yatuk was stunned by these words. He was only a hunter, a man hungry for knowledge, but his knowledge of the world was limited. As he tried to decipher the meaning of this voice, the images in his mind became clearer. Huge creatures from the stars, other villages similar to his village, people living in different times and in different conditions. As far as he understood, this light gave him the power to travel beyond time and space. The voice said to him, "Put this orb back in its place and keep what you see a secret. When the heavens call you again, only you will remember this knowledge and pass it on." Yatuk involuntarily put the orb back and took a deep breath in the silence of the cave. Not knowing whether what he had seen was a dream or reality, the light disappeared in the sky as he slowly walked out of the cave. When he returned to his village, he did not answer those who asked him what had happened that night. He just kept silent. Years passed. Yatuk grew old, but every time he saw that light in the sky, he remembered that he carried a great mission inside him. He never told anyone about this mission, but he always knew that one day that light would return and open the secrets of nature to people. From generation to generation, this light was told as a legend. Yatuk's silence became the village's greatest secret. As the years passed, Yatuk felt more and more the weight of a secret he carried inside him. In the years that passed, he avoided passing by the cave. But in his mind there were always those images, those timeless landscapes, the echoes of that strange voice. People in the village noticed that Yatuk had changed since he went to the cave one day, becoming quieter and more withdrawn. Once a strong and fearless young man known for his hunting, Yatuk was now more like a sage who looked up at the stars and withdrew into his own world. Yatuk began to tell stories to the village children who watched him. But his stories were not ordinary. They were not about the hunters in the village, or the animals they knew, or the forests beyond the valley. His stories told of beings the villagers could not comprehend, strange signs from the sky and vast lands. The children listened to these stories mesmerized, while the adults thought that Yatuk's mind was clouded at some point. One winter evening, the red and white light in the sky that he had not seen for years reappeared. Yatuk's heart began to beat with the old excitement. Regardless of his age and tired body, he set off again for the sacred cave. At that moment, one of the young men in the village, Tulan, noticed Yatuk's trail and silently followed him. Tulan was one of the young men who had been fascinated by the strange stories Yatuk had been telling for years and who, like him, looked at the stars with curiosity. When Yatuk arrived at the cave, he was again greeted by the warm breeze. Once inside, and in front of a stone pillar, the orb appeared once more in his direction. Tulan was also watching, hidden behind Yatuk. The glow of the orb spread once more, and as Yatuk touched it, a voice echoed in his mind once more. Yatuk, the cycle is almost complete. This knowledge will no longer be your responsibility alone, but for generations to come. Just then, Yatuk noticed a rustling behind him. Tulan had come a little closer to see what Yatuk was doing. Yatuk looked into the young man's eyes, which were glowing with fear, and without saying anything, Yatuk reached for the orb. When he held it out to her, Tulan hesitated, but grasped it in her hands. The moment she touched the orb, the same images appeared in her mind. Landscapes beyond time and space, unfamiliar landscapes, the vast sky. When Tulan opened her eyes, she felt as if she had aged thousands of years, but at the same time, she was filled with a deep sense of wisdom and responsibility. At that moment, she realized the weight of the secret Yatuk had been carrying for years. Yatuk looked into Tulan's face and smiled slightly. This knowledge is now your responsibility, Tulan. The cycle I began will continue with you. One day you will pass this secret on to someone else. This knowledge will be carried on in our lineage as a legacy for the future. That night, in the darkness of the cave, Tulan and Yatuk felt the power of light once more. Tulan now knew that she would be the keeper of this secret on her way back to the village. From that moment on, the stories of Tulan echoed in the village. After Yatuk, future generations grew up listening to these stories. Every time a red and white light appeared in the sky, someone in the village would inherit the secret, leaving a mysterious legacy for the future of humanity. And so, a cycle of wisdom among the people of the valley continued for generations, while this mysterious light continued to be remembered as a legend. The belief that the lights in the sky are an unbreakable link between nature and man has been revived in each generation, illuminating the dark nights. Over the years, the story of Yatuk and Tulan spread through whispers in the village. But with each telling, the story became more mysterious. Some said that Yatuk spoke to the gods, others that Tulan was blessed by a spirit from the sky. These narratives became a legacy of wisdom embedded in the village's deepest beliefs. Every time a red and white light appeared in the sky, the villagers would gaze silently at the stars, wondering how future generations would carry the secret. One day, one of Tulan's children, young Avuk, was trying to understand his father's fascination with the stars. Tulan had never shown anyone the orb Yatuk had given him, but his son Avuk, realizing that he spent a lot of time with it at night, was eager to learn his father's secret. His interest in the stars grew every day, like a calling in his veins. "Father," Avuk whispered one night when the stars were at their brightest, as he walked quietly beside Tulan, watching her, immersed in the sky. tell me about the stars. I want to see what you and my grandfather saw." Tulan sighed at his son's request. He thought of his own youth, and the secret Yatuk had left him. He knew that this knowledge only made sense when it was summoned in someone's soul. The sparkle and curiosity in Avuk's eyes whispered to him that the time had come. Slowly, he took the orb out of his pocket and showed it to Avuk. When Avuk saw this strange metallic object, his curiosity grew even greater. Slowly the orb began to glow, just as it had the first time Yatuk showed it to Tulan. When Tulan handed it to her son, she said, "Avuk, this is a secret, a wisdom older than the stars. When they left me this knowledge, I knew it would one day be shared with you." Avuk listened carefully to his father's words and then touched the orb. At that moment, new worlds began to appear in Avuk's mind like an explosion. Huge stars wandering in the depths of the sky, foreign lands, people he did not know. At that moment, he realized why his father and ancestors had kept this knowledge a secret. It was not only knowledge, but also a responsibility that the human spirit must bear. The realms he saw contained different life forms beyond human imagination. Sometimes these beings were peaceful, sometimes destructive. At the core of it all was a wisdom united with nature and the stars. As Avuk held the orb tightly in his hand, a voice suddenly echoed in his mind. The future will need wise souls who can preserve this knowledge. Secrets that humans will never understand in their lifetime are hidden in this orb. It will be your duty, and that of your descendants, to protect it. When Avuk opened his eyes, there was a look of both peace and deep responsibility on his face. He looked at his father Tulan, and the two of them silently shared the sacredness of this moment. From that day on, Avuk began to look at the stars with greater devotion and vowed to be, like Tulan, a worthy guardian of this secret. Years passed, Tulan grew old, and one day she closed her eyes and said goodbye in peace, knowing that the secret was safe in Avuk's hands. Avuk proudly carried the mission he inherited from his father like a flag. Thanks to him, star stories in the village grew year after year, passed on to new generations. Avuk's children and grandchildren not only listened to these stories, but also managed to engrave them as a belief in the common spirit of the village. And the day came, and Avuk grew old. But this secret, in the light of the stars, was indelibly engraved in the hearts of every person living in the village. The red and white light in the sky represented the deep knowledge and faith in the unknown, not only of the people of the village, but of all humanity. This light continued to burn for generations, and every time the people of the village saw that light in the sky, they hoped that one day the stars would return to them and humanity would be ready to solve this mystery. And perhaps the day would come when, in learning this secret, man would find peace with himself. Despite Avuk's advancing age, this secret kept his spirit alive, and each new generation in the village saw the wisdom of the stars in his eyes. As Avuk inspired his people with his devotion to the stars, many of the village's young people now gathered around him, watching the sky with him when the stars appeared at night. But Avuk knew he had to entrust the secret of the stars to only one heir. The wisdom of the stars was a heavy responsibility, and the soul who could carry this secret had to be chosen in the presence of the stars. One night, when the stars were unusually bright in the sky, Avuk called his favorite grandson, Koya, to him. Koya had always been deeply interested in the stories Avuk told, and was as fascinated by the stars as Avuk was. When Koya received his grandfather's invitation, he ran excitedly to him, and Avuk felt that the wisdom of the stars would one day be carried on his shoulders. He turned to her and said, "Koya, the stars will speak to you tonight." Koya did not fully understand what Avuk was saying, but she felt her grandfather's trust in her. Avuk reached into his pocket and took out the orb he had been hiding for years and placed it in Koya's hands. When Koya palmed the orb, he was engulfed in a dazzling light, as every heir who touches it experiences. As his mind floated among the stars and galaxies, images from beyond time appeared before his eyes. Beings living in distant lands, human-like, but with consciousnesses different from humanity. signs of a silent and eternal wisdom among the stars. As Koya was lost in these images, a voice echoed, "Koya, this secret will continue with you. You will be the keeper of the stories the stars have entrusted to this world. This wisdom will be carried with you into the light of the future." Koya looked at Avuk as the images in her mind slowly faded away. The expressionless but powerful look on his face made her realize that he was no longer a child in her grandfather's eyes, but an heir. "Now you know our secret," Avuk said, smiling slightly at her. "This secret is not just yours. It is the secret of the whole village, and perhaps in the future, of a bigger world. One day, the stars will show you another way." From that day on, Koya lived her life keeping the secret of the stars and the wisdom her grandfather had entrusted to her. But he knew that one day he would look for an heir like himself. With the wisdom of the stars now resonating in his soul, he looked up to the sky and dreamed of the time when this secret would one day be revealed for all humanity. As Avuk breathed his last one morning on the highest hill in the village, the seeds of the wisdom of the stars began to sprout in Koya's hands. The red and white light in the sky continued to burn for centuries. Koya's story became a legend in the village, while the secret of the stars lived on in the hearts of new generations. And one day, perhaps thousands of years later, this light from the sky would appear in front of people to open all their wisdom. The secret of the stars would be remembered as humanity's greatest riddle, and the whole world was preparing to be a part of it. Burdened by the secret and responsibility he inherited from his grandfather, Koya had learned to live an ordinary life in the village. But as a bearer of the wisdom of the stars, he looked up at the sky every night, silently talking to the stars, waiting for new signs they would show him. As Koya's eyes shone under the stars with a wisdom that pierced the darkness, the people of the village began to talk about him in whispers. People believed that Koya had a sacred mission and hoped that this ancient secret to the sky would guide them too. As the years passed, Koya grew old. His eyes held the deep wisdom and sadness that Avuk had carried in his last years. Koya was no longer full of the energy of his youth, but the fire of the secret still burned in his heart. He began to look for a new heir, someone to whom he could pass on the secrets of the stars. But it was not an easy decision. There were many children in the village, but Koya knew that only a pure heart could carry this knowledge. One day a little girl, one of the youngest members of the village, came up to Koya and started asking her questions about the stars. Her name was Mila, and her interest in the stars was reminiscent of Koya's teenage years. In Mila's eyes shone that indescribable curiosity and fearlessness. When Koya saw the light in her eyes as she boldly looked up at the sky, he felt that the sign of the stars was showing her a new path. Koya started telling little Mila stories about the stars. He told her that the bright stars she saw in the night sky were not just light, but that each one carried a soul within it. Mila listened to these stories as if mesmerized and memorized every detail. One night, when the stars were even brighter, Koya called Mila to him and said, "One day I will entrust the secret to you, but you will have to be brave and wise enough to hear the voice of the stars." Years passed and Mila grew up. She was now a young and brave sage who never left Koya's side in the village. Even though Koya's eyes were closing in old age, he sat by Mila's side every night under the stars, telling her the secrets of the sky. Koya dreamed of the day when this knowledge would not end with her, when Mila would leave an heir to the stars, just as she had. One night, a light appeared in the sky, brighter than ever. It was so big that even the whole village woke up to see this extraordinary sight in the sky. Koya realized that this was the moment the stars had been waiting for. He put the orb in Mila's hand and said, "This is your secret now, Mila. This light is a sign to us. The message of the stars is about to come to Earth. Keep this secret, and future generations will carry this wisdom." Koya's last breath ended silently under the stars. With the orb in her hand, Mila promised to keep her grandfather's legacy alive. Now the knowledge of the stars would continue to live on in the endless cycle of the world. That red and white light in the sky continued to represent the eternal quest of humanity and the legacy of ancient wisdom hidden in the depths of the universe. And so, the wisdom of the stars was passed down from generation to generation, each heir waiting for the moment when one day humanity would be ready to unravel this great secret. That light in the sky remained a secret that would one day guide all of humanity, and the wisdom of the stars transcended legends and became a symbol of hope. As the years passed, Mila aged with the ancient wisdom she carried, gazing up at the stars and listening to their secrets. The villagers no longer saw her as just a wise woman. She was revered as a sacred being who could speak with the stars. Every night, Mila would sit under the vast sky, waiting for the stars to send her new signs. One night, an elder from the village approached her, saying he had dreamt of a giant creature descending from the sky. In his dream, the creature stood beside Mila and whispered that the stars wished to share an even greater secret. Mila understood that this was no ordinary dream. She sensed that the stars wanted to convey a new message to her and the villagers. She embraced a deep silence within herself, feeling ready to respond to the stars' call. One evening, a remarkably bright star appeared in the sky, and Mila began to walk towards the center of the village. The star shone so intensely that it felt as if it were calling her on a journey. When the villagers saw this radiant light, they gathered around her, believing that the stars were about to impart new wisdom. Mila gazed up and sent a profound call from her heart to the stars. At that moment, the light of the bright star seemed to descend upon the village, filling the surroundings with a golden white glow. This light was more than just illumination. It was an energy that permeated the entire village, resonating within each person's heart with an ancient wisdom. People began to see visions of the past under this light. The early days of the village's founding, Avuk's first encounter with the stars, Toulon's deep connection with the night sky. Under this light, Mila closed her eyes and listened to the secrets the stars were sharing with her. The stars told her that the ancient wisdom of the world must reach all people, that this knowledge would one day bring peace and harmony among nations. Mila turned to the villagers and said, "This light is the greatest message from the stars. They want us to share the secrets, the wisdom, and the experiences of those who came before us with the world." From that day onward, the villagers worked to spread this wisdom. Gazing up at the sky and the stars, they shared stories, legends, and teachings that touched people's hearts. The villagers realized that these ancient secrets did not belong to them alone, but to all humanity, and they dedicated themselves to sharing this legacy. Over time, the village became a center for those seeking the wisdom of the stars. People from nearby tribes, distant lands, and travelers flocked to the village, each believing that possessing a piece of these sacred secrets would unite their souls with the stars. Under the starlit sky of the village, people learned to live together in peace, each finding themselves within the ancient knowledge and forging a new life in the light of the stars. And thus, the wisdom of the stars spread from the village, illuminating souls for centuries. Each time a new bright star appeared in the sky, they dreamed that the secrets gifted by the stars would one day reach the entire world, bringing peace and knowledge to everyone. The village beneath the stars continued as a beacon of hope and a boundless source of wisdom for humanity, with the bright light in the sky forever preserving the memories of these ancient people. And the stars, with each heir entrusted with their secrets, continued to whisper from the sky, "We are here, watching over you, guiding you on the path of wisdom."